into the Q code. Your curiosity quest starts here.
Hey, what's up, Q coders? This is the Q Code Podcast.
Told you the Q coders would stick.
I'm trying it out. I'm not saying it's bad,
It sounded good.
but I'm not saying it's like the best either. It's kind of like how we came up with the name Q Code Podcast.
It's the best.
It's just I couldn't come up with anything better.
I feel like that's how a lot of decisions get made. Is like I'll come up with something and Trav will be like, "It's okay.
Just give me a minute.
It's not the best.
I'm usually like, just give me a minute.
If I can come up with something better, we're gonna change it." And then Trav, did you come up with anything?
No.
No. I guess we'll go with yours.
So, we like to start out, and I don't know if we've really done this up to this point, but in our last podcast, which we had, we like to kind of start out with a little random intro, just something to get the...
We did. Last week we came in with your anime stuff.
Oh, yeah. My anime stuff is just like, it's one anime thing that I watch. But so I wanted to kind of go over this experience that I had last week. It was super weird. So I've been doing this diet, which all started because at work we had a health fair. And we had this gym come in that had this body analysis machine, and against my better judgment, I stepped on it. And the thing told me I was 25 pounds overweight, that I needed to lose it immediately. I feel like it said that, but it didn't.
You have 14 days.
But so I was like, all right. I need to do something. I need to start, just getting back to a manageable weight. I'm a tall person. I'm not like a huge person by any means. But, just needed to lose a few lbs. And so my wife and I decided, hey, let's just go on a little diet. A lot of people, do the keto thing. We're not necessarily doing keto. We just wanted to do less carbs and just kind of manage that. Well,
It sounds like you said it kind of worked for you.
It did. I have lost a decent amount in a week. But... what I did was the first 2 days, I kind of just went all out. And I probably was doing what keto people do. Because I literally had almost zero carbs. and when my body is used to having so many carbs and sugars and then all of a sudden just denying it for 2 days, it just went into some kind of shock. And I was at work and I had some food there for lunch. It was like lunch meat, some cheese, obviously no bread. But but I didn't want to eat that for the second day in a row. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll go over. There's a grocery store just down the block, and I'll go in there. Well, I went in and started looking at everything and just got super depressed because literally everything has carbs in it. And after walking around for about 5 minutes, I left without purchasing anything, went in my car to pout. And I was sitting there and I was kind of like on my phone, just opened up Facebook and then realized I started getting super tired. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to close my eyes for a few minutes. And I typically when I do these things, like I'm very aware that I'm not like actually sleeping. I'm just I'm resting my eyes.
So you know that like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yes, yeah. And all of a sudden, I wake up because my phone rings, and it's my wife, and so we talk for a second. I look at the clock, and I'd literally been asleep for 40 minutes. And I was like, oh, crap, I got to get back to work.
Your whole lunch hour?
My whole lunch hour was gone. So I start my car, and I drive to exit the parking lot, and I realized at that moment I could not remember which way to turn to get back to work. I was super disoriented. So, luckily, if I look down the street, I can see my building. So I looked down both ways and I was like, oh, there it is. and so I drove down, parked, went into my building, and same thing with my office. I was like, where the crap is my office? My office is literally, as you go through the front door, you have to it's the first one you come to. I just go straight back, and it's right there.
So what you're saying is that carbs are directly correlated to memory.
No, I think what I was hypoglycemic. And because I didn't have any sugar in my body, and I was just super disoriented and just like I knew where things were supposed to be, but it just didn't make sense when I thought about it. And somebody came and visited my office. I looked at their face, and like their right side of their face seemed a little droopy. I was like, what the crap is going on? And then I looked up at this picture. Don't ask me why I have a picture of this. Long story short, I have a picture frame in my office that people just switch out pictures of just random things. Right now, I think it's a drunk Kermit the Frog. Cool. But before, it was Luke Perry. And so I looked up at Luke, and his face was droopy. And then I also have this ball, like one of those stress balls, and it has a smiley face on it. And half of that face was droopy. So it's like, I got to freaking get to the bathroom and look at something. So I got up to go to the bathroom, couldn't find the bathroom. Finally make it there, and look in the mirror, and my face is droopy. So I'm thinking I'm having a stroke. And
like, what do they call that? Like cerebral palsy?
No.
Or something?
That's like when you shake.
No, that's
cerebral palsy. Isn't that where like half of your face is like
is that what it is?
paralyzed?
Like paralyzed.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I thought cerebral palsy was when you like shake.
No, that's
Parkinson's.
Parkinson's disease.
There could be more than one thing where you shake.
Nope, only one.
Low blood sugar.
But anyway, yeah. So
Cold. You're very cold. Hypothermic.
Yeah.
Hyperthermic. No,
but
hypo.
so I decided, I was like, you know what? I got to get out of here. Like, I do not feel good. I'm going home. And it was about like 4:30. I leave at 5. So I was like, it's not bad. Like, everybody's pretty much out of the office anyway. It was a Friday. So I'm heading out, and we have this calendar that's by our postage machine. And we have to just write like how much we're purchasing. Every time we need to purchase more postage, we write on the day on the calendar how much we purchased. And so this lady who does it, she can't reach the calendar, so she hands me the marker. She's like, hey, can you write 500 on April 5th? I seriously stood and stared at the calendar. I couldn't find April 5th. I felt so dumb because she's sitting here waiting for me to do it. So I just came up with this lie. I was like, oh, man, I'm super dizzy. And then she's like, oh, well, you need to go home. So I left. But my big fear was that I wasn't going to be able to make it home. I did. I made it home. But then after that, like, I started feeling better. I started drinking some more water. I think that was the problem too, is I wasn't drinking enough water for what I was doing.
So you were hypoglycemic,
dehydrated.
You were dehydrated. You had
zero carbs.
Zero carbs. And no memory.
Yep.
So cerebral palsy.
So if you guys do any of that, just make sure you drink a lot of water, because you don't want to end up like I was. But I'm feeling fine now.
Well done. And you lost 8 pounds.
I did. I've lost 8 pounds in a week. So I don't know if it was worth it, because that freaked me out. Like, I thought I was dying. So
maybe it was really just the stress. That's what causes you to lose weight.
Maybe.
It's just like you get super depressed and freaked out and sit in your corner.
Yeah. But that's what happened. So welcome. Welcome into the Kiko Podcast. We've got a good show for you today. What questions do we have today, Daniel?
Well, we have some pretty interesting questions this time. I believe Trav's going to go over who are the Bronies.
I actually mentioned this
I think it was episode 1.
Episode 1, yeah. I kind of mentioned it and realized that it was a topic that we needed to talk about.
I've been looking forward to it ever since then, because I still, other than from what you told us, know nothing about the Bronies. And then the second question we're going to go over is, what happened to the killer bees? I remember the killer bee epidemic, or whatever you want to call it, from being a kid. And then I just was thinking the other day, I don't even remember why or what triggered it, but I just was like, what happened to those killer bees that were on their way to where we live? So I'm going to go into that. And then finally, we're going to finish with Alan's question of what is the Event Horizon and what is the Event Horizon Telescope? And I believe you're going to go into what that is and what they're trying to figure out and what they're trying to capture is my understanding.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And also he's going to talk about the Kool-Aid Man
Oh, yeah.
That's Randy Savage, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
and the Kool-Aid.
The cream
Does the
always rises to the top, brother. Slap it to a Slim Jim. Oh, yeah.
But what does the Kool-Aid Man say?
He says,
He just
oh, yeah.
says,
He says, oh, yeah.
he just goes, sorry about your wall.
So,
That's a dumb Kool-Aid. Okay. So, without further ado, how about we get into it, Trav? Why don't you kick off? Who are the Bronies?
I feel like we need like a little sounder here of somebody going, Bronies.
Brony.
But instead, I got this sounder. Let's kick it, Alan.
My little pony, my little pony. My little pony. I used to wonder what friendship could be. Until you all shared its magic with me.
All right.
That's enough.
So that right there sounds
My Little
like
Pony.
something that thousands of grown men would be really into, right?
Well, we were all like rocking out, weren't we?
No. So I'm going to start with this. I wrote a little. I'm going to be reading quite a bit here of just, it's kind of like I was writing like a report. And so forgive me if it sounds like I'm reading, but because I am. Because I am.
It would actually be weird if it didn't sound like you were reading.
Yeah, but back in the spring of 2012, I had an interesting experience that even to this day, I cannot explain what the phenomenon was. And
Wait, you personally?
I did, yes.
Okay.
This is the reason why I know who Bronies are or what Bronies are. Don't know why Bronies are a thing, but
I would say it probably should. Yeah, it should be who are the Bronies.
but who the Bronies are. Who are the Bronies? And the story goes, well, so I had just gotten a new job at a hotel. It was called the Red Lion Hotel, downtown Salt Lake.
Remember, didn't you drive the shuttle for that?
I did. It was the worst job ever, guys. I drove it for a lot of flight attendants and pilots who had a contract that stayed at the company or at the hotel, and I feel like they're just so happy to your face when when they're flying you. But just like any other customer service person, as soon as like they clock out, they hate everybody. Just life sucks. I gotta go stay at this stupid hotel in Salt Lake City where all the alcohol is not even like real alcohol, and just life is stupid. Well, my first day there, I am going in the back because they only had like 2 like luggage carts or 3 luggage carts, and they're missing some. So they're like, "Hey, can you guys go in the back? We did see somebody take them back there." So I'm heading in the back.
The back of the hotel.
The back of the hotel.
The parking lot?
No, the back. Like I'm inside, but I'm like going
okay.
back, the back of the hotel, down a long hallway. And as I'm going down this hallway, I start hearing this music, and it gets louder and louder and louder. And as I get back there, I see that like the hallway then opens up, and we did have a like a conference room, but the conference room was like locked. Like these people that were having this party were not allowed in the conference room. They were having a party in the foyer. That was like what they booked. They only had enough money to book the foyer, not the actual conference room. But anyway, so I turn the corner and I just see a bunch of dudes dressed like ponies dancing around in a circle, and they are galloping. So they are just like I wish I could show everybody so you could see just they had their hands up like they were like neighing. And they're just like bouncing around. They're galloping in a circle.
Did they have like fake hooves?
Some of them did. A lot of them had like.
So wait, you said dressed up like ponies.
I'm saying like they had like My Little
costumes?
Ponies. Like they had costumes. Like
that were made for full-grown
like some of
men?
them. Yeah. Well, I'm assuming they made them themselves.
Oh.
But some of them had horns, and then they had ears. So much glitter that it just would not even. It's just too much.
So we had this talk before we started recording the show, but there's some of the ponies that have horns, and they're like really unicorns, and some of them that aren't and don't have horns, right? So
I don't. It's just whatever.
do you think the guys are like
No, but the
fighting
thing is
over who
like the
gets a
bronies,
horn?
like some of them like dress up like their favorite characters. Others make their own characters up, but doesn't matter. They were just running around in circles, and they're just like me and just having a gay old time.
Are you Twilight Sparkle? No, I'm Midnight Twinkle.
Is that a name?
Twilight Sparkle is, I think, one.
Yeah, it's a real
So
one.
in preparation for this, and
I should really quickly preface, because we talked about this really briefly on our last episode, but we grew up in a time we're saying gay.
I didn't say gay. I said gay old time.
Yeah,
but
Trav really just
I didn't
means,
refer that to them being gay. I just say they're gay old
Trav
time.
just means that happy, because that's what gay used to mean.
That is literally what I meant. There was no double entendre.
Okay, just clarifying.
I don't know if that's actually the.
That sounds
That sounds right. Yeah, right. Okay. There's no double meaning to it. But in preparation for this, I decided, you know what? I've never really watched it, and so I'm gonna sit down and watch it. So last night, because there are 8 seasons to this thing, and each of them have like 26 episodes. So there's
like
no way.
actual My Little Pony.
Yeah. Well, the new one, which is like My Little Pony Friendship is Magical or something. I don't know. Magical Friendship, something like that. But so I was like, I'm going to sit down and watch a couple episodes just to see if anything appeals to me. And so I turn it on. I put my kids to bed first.
You don't even watch it with them.
No.
Go to bed.
Well,
Dad's
at least I
gotta
put
watch
my
My
son to
Little Pony.
bed. My daughter was playing a game on the phone, and so I just was like, all right, she's occupied, my son's in bed, I'm going to watch My Little Pony. And so I sit down, and then my daughter comes in, she's like, Dad? I was like, what? She's like, why are you watching My Little Pony? And I was like, it's just, I said, trust me, I don't want to. I said, it's
You
just
should have
something.
said, I'm a brony.
I just said, I'm going to be talking about something on tomorrow's podcast, and I just need to know a little bit about it. So she like turns around, like looks at me weird, goes to her room. She goes, Dad, you're strange. And then just goes into her room. And I was like, yeah, this is how most people would react. Okay.
For anyone who doesn't know, Trav's daughter is 6 years old. So
Yeah,
it's not like she's a teenager doing
No.
this. Like,
She's 6.
and she thinks it's strange.
So since that day at the Red Lion Hotel, I have wondered what the appeal is. However, it wasn't something that bothered me enough to actually like do research. So once I decided to talk about them this week, I figured I should at least Google it. So I decided to start off with Reddit. And I'm new to the whole Reddit scene, but I did find a conversation a while back. I think it was actually back in 2013 that it happened, but that started with the same burning question that somebody had, which was, what is the appeal? So in response, Schizophrenic Ghost replied, to be perfectly honest, I just like having something with no cruel intentions and no mean-spiritedness, like so many shows seem to glorify. And at a time when I'm feeling my lowest, I like having something happy to look at and enjoy. Really, the show itself is meh. It's just the idea of it that draws me in. So
But then
that's...
did Schizophrenic Ghost also reply again
No.
shortly after?
No.
Wait, you asked?
No literal.
You
language.
asked the question?
No.
And they responded,
Somebody asked this question back in 2013
On Reddit.
and Schizophrenic Ghost replied.
Oh.
So, but this is my reply to Schizophrenic Ghost. I didn't
Yeah.
actually reply, but this is what I'm saying right now. So, if Schizophrenic Ghost, you're listening, this is what I have to say to you. So I said, so sweet, Schizophrenic Ghost. But that answer is totally a cop-out. If you consider yourself a brony, you wouldn't think the show is meh. And how often would any regular person put time and effort into watching a show that doesn't entertain them? Thanks, Schizo, for trying. But your reply seems like something you've said over and over to try and hide the real reason you love the show, whatever that may be. Because let's be honest, who's horrible enough to question someone who loves to watch good old-fashioned non-violent shows with a good message? I'll tell you who. me, baby. So there ain't no way that a movement as large as the Brony movement gained this much traction just because a bunch of dudes were tired of violence.
Is there anywhere that says like how many?
There are
men
thousands.
Part of
Seriously,
this?
thousands, because they now have a BronyCon.
What?
So you have Comic-Con, there's BronyCon, and there's videos. There's a documentary about them. Thousands, guys. It is something that, like, I don't get it still. And to each their own. Okay, I know that there's Trekkies, there's...
Yeah, I was going to say, is it like so different really than anyone at a Comic-Con who's just dressed like their favorite character?
Well, but that's the thing. Like,
Other than
you can have a favorite character, and I'm not necessarily like dogging on these guys because it's just something that I don't understand. But they all seem to have these same answers, but none of them actually really answer it. They're very vague about it. It's just like, well, it makes me feel good. Okay, what about it makes you feel good? But why? Why do you have to watch My Little Pony instead of something else that could make you feel good? Like, watch Full House. My daughter's really into Full House right now.
Or like we talked about before this, Care Bears.
Care Bears. Or something. Well, I feel like that's kind of like in the same realm. But I'm just saying, like, my daughter right now, she really loves like Boy Meets World and Full House. And she's 6, but like these are things, they're like family. They have like good messages. They're not about violence. They have some like, you know, it's just, it's good. It's a good family TV show. But why is it this show that you have to watch to make you feel better about yourself?
But that's what I'm saying is like, what's the difference between watching My Little Pony and Care Bear? So like, why is there Bronies? Is there any kind of like Care Bear group? Like cronies?
Carers.
It wouldn't make sense. Like,
Why would it be crony?
yeah, just because it starts with a C and it rhymes with bronies. Cronies. You've got your bronies and your cronies. Just guys who love little girl cartoons. But so there was also another response from Tea Time Bitches with a Z, who claimed to be a former brony, but no longer associated himself with that group. He stated, "I'm guessing most of the people who are completely obsessed with it are like are how I was, or they don't know how to be themselves. They want to fit in, but want to be different at the same time." So I was like, okay, that's a little bit of a better understanding for me. I mean, looking at a group of the My Little Pony fanatics from the hotel and others that I've seen, you know, like online and YouTube and stuff, I get it. You're searching for an identity. You don't quite fit in anywhere, so you latch onto something that allows you to fit in.
So this is where it goes back to when we talked about this with the flat earthers is a similar thing, and I think that's why you brought this up in the first place. But it's just they feel like they become part of this group and they really identify themselves with this new group of people.
Yeah. So I mean, in my head, I thought, well, maybe it's not about the show. Maybe it's the show. The show is just a platform for these people to feel needed and wanted, but. For that, I say you don't need a little girl cartoon to have a reason to get together with a group of people. You can just do it. But so I mean,
I can cancel my Little Pony party that we have scheduled for later.
Yeah, I mean the other.
Well, you got like you hear about people who are like they love a band that is not like in the mainstream. It's not like on MTV or, you know, hugely popular. But then, like this happened with Fall Out Boy, if you all know who Fall Out Boy is. But they were kind of underground for a few years, and then they blew up big, and a ton of people were pissed. They're like, oh,
sell out. Sell out. Guess what? I'd sell out too. It's money.
For millions of dollars.
But yeah, so they're like, oh, a lot of you're like, so you liked them because basically nobody else knew about them and you thought like you were special knowing about them at the time. But now that they are all over, you don't like them. Which
Yeah.
is like, were you listening to them for the music at all, or was it just because you wanted to be different and have something that nobody else had
So-
or knew about?
There's one other reason that I found that people enjoy this show. And unfortunately, with just the 2 episodes that I watched, I did not get to experience that, or fortunately, however you want to look at it.
It's like if I would have gone 4 episodes in, I would be a full-fledged brony now.
But so apparently there's clever writing with complex plots, along with a lot of pop culture references, such as Star Wars, James Bond, Top Gun, The Big Lebowski. Like, those are just some of them. They reference, like, I know there's an episode that I saw a picture of where they are like all like the Avengers and stuff. So there's a lot of these type of episodes where they're just kind of cleverly done, written, and stuff like that.
But that's like more recent, right?
It might be. I don't know. So
You don't know if like the original.
I don't know if there's freaking 8 seasons. So,
Well, I'm saying, wasn't there an original? Like, isn't this? You said
oh
it's
no,
like
no,
a
this
newer-
is the new one. Yes, no,
Yeah.
all of the Bronies didn't exist until this new one.
Oh, so it wasn't like they came out
No.
in the 70s or 80s whenever the original My Little Pony came out.
No, it's this new one. Friendship is magic. That's the
That's
yeah.
very specific to be a super freaking super
Yeah.
fan. You
In
know,
2010. That's when it came out, and that's when this whole thing started. There was one thing I forgot to tell you about that experience in the hotel. So the next day, because it was like a mini BronyCon, like a convention that we had at the back of the hotel.
so you went to one of the early BronyCons.
early BronyCons back in 2012. There were maybe like 30 people. Well, so we had a shuttle. Some people flew in for this. Okay, so one of our drivers took a handful of them to the airport, and you did a service. You're expecting some tip. She comes back and she shows me what the tip was: 53 cents and a little tiny stubby carrot. It's like, what am I supposed to do with this? I was like, well, I'd keep the 53 cents and go get yourself some gum. Throw away that carrot because you don't know where that's been.
Was it a real carrot?
It's
or
like
a baby
one
carrot?
yeah,
Toy
no,
carrot?
no. It was like one that you pulled out of the freaking ground.
But it was a real
But
carrot.
it was a real carrot. It was just stubby. It was like it didn't have enough time to mature. But so all I could imagine is just him running around in a circle, neighing, and he just gnawing on this little carrot. Or feeding each other. Like, I feel like... Now, don't get me wrong. There are women at these things, too. But it's just mostly dudes. So I don't
So
get it.
do the women, are they called bronies as well? Or do they have another
Yeah.
name?
They don't have another name. They're just a part of the brony movement.
Brony allies.
Yeah.
They're not like wonies.
Yeah, but they also, so along with the fact that there's clever writing, pop culture references, you got a lot of voice actors that, or just regular actors that lend their talents to the show, just for the fans. So like Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. I mean, he does a lot of voice stuff anyway. He's the voice of the Joker in the Batman animated series, and does a lot of other things. So I think he's in there, like Weird Al Yankovic, and it's just others. And so for whatever reason, this is the stuff that draws them in. But I still don't see why. Like, even if I kind of enjoyed like the episode, right, or like just the fact that they're referencing something, that's not enough for me to dress up like a pony and then like go prance around with another bunch of guys. So again,
There's gotta be
if you are a
something-
brony, I'm sorry. It's just because I don't understand it. And I've tried
What about like the what is it? Like they dress up as knights in the medieval times. They play like I don't know if it's play or like
No, they
reenact.
yeah,
It's like
they
medieval
act-
times.
yeah, cosplay. I get some of that.
Or
because-
even like they do that with the Civil War. They reenact.
yes, I get all that.
But you're
I
saying
do.
this is different than that because
This is different. It's completely different because that, I mean, you're at least acting out like, I mean, it is
History.
fantasy and stuff, but it's like sword fights and you know, people, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's the same thing. I don't know. I just don't get the appeal, and I just don't feel
See,
like...
I'm with you. I don't get the appeal. I would much rather do like a medieval knights.
Yeah,
type
I would
if-
totally play Dungeons
I
and
had to do
Dragons
something.
over dressing
I guess-
up like a pony.
But
This could come
I
back.
mean, I guess it's just if that's what you're into, all right.
And that's what I was saying,
Like,
to each their own. So
Yeah.
please, like, if you are listening to this and you are a brony, or at least understand that, go to our website or go to our,
Contact us.
contact us, however, through our social medias. I need to know. I just, since that day, it's been there. It's always been there. That I just don't understand it. Like, what is the appeal?
So this has been a question that's been eating at you for 7 years.
7 years.
And you're just looking for, like, not just an, I mean, because it looks like there's answers.
There's answers,
out
but
there,
there's gotta
but
be more to
there's-
it than that.
There's not like an answer that for you feels fulfilling. Like this, like, oh, okay, that literally explains it to a point that it makes sense to
Yeah.
me, whether
So-
I agree with it or not.
Yeah.
every once in a while in the past 7 years, Travis has just been like sitting there silent in his own head, and then all of a sudden, Bronies. Why?
Basically it. Like I told you, it wasn't enough for me to really do a lot of research until now. But it's always just been there. It'd be like, I'd see something pop up and I'd be like, what is this? Like, or like I'd see it pop up on Netflix, like My Little Pony. I'm like, why? What is this deal?
But I
What
mean,
is
I
the deal
think
with
this can come back to like the whole concept of, and was it the first episode or something that we talked briefly on it with, or maybe it's the second episode with Alan talking about how
We've had
in the
3
history-
episodes, including today. So
the history of people and what they did for fun, and how he doesn't understand how you could have lived 100 years ago with no like electronic stimuli, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
But like Alan said, there's just like it just to each their own. Because I mean, there are people who love that lifestyle, who wish that they could basically live in the 1800s and live this simple life where they get to just grow their own food and go hunt their own meat and
That's
have
true.
no electricity, you know.
Like I don't get country people. I mean, they love being out in the middle of the nowhere and having that isolation. But I need to be close to a city. Like if like I would love to live in New York. That's the kind of person I am. Like the bigger the city, the better for me.
Not me.
no.
Really?
I don't want to live out in the boonies, but I got to live in my suburbs.
Yeah. Maybe because you guys have
Somewhere
kids.
like far enough away that it's not like too crowded, but close enough that I only have to drive 20, 30 minutes to get anywhere I need to go.
Yeah.
So,
Me too.
but anyway, that's it. Again, sorry if I've offended you or anything like that, but I just don't understand it. So you're just going to have to enlighten me. So please go to our website or go to our social media pages and let me know.
I do have to give you kudos though, Trav, for even though you say you don't understand the like why bronies like My Little Pony, you at least took the steps to watch a couple episodes to try and immerse yourself into this world a little bit to try and understand them.
And I do have one person in my life that's an adult that I know watches it. It's my sister-in-law. So she's not, I mean, I guess you can call her a brony, but I wanted to get a hold of her or her husband just to see if they had any insight, but we couldn't. They live in Georgia and who knows? I don't know. Time difference.
It'd be interesting just to find out from her standpoint why she likes it, because maybe she has a similar reasoning
Yes.
of liking it and as the bronies.
Yep. But anyway, let's move on to the next question.
All right, we'll move on to question number 2, which is my question, and it's a burning question that I've had. Trav said he's had his question since 2012. I've had this question since like 1999.
Back in 1999.
Was there a party going on?
Like it's 1999. But I, growing up, just, I don't know, I fell into the whole killer bee craze a little bit as a kid, partially just, I literally had a fear of the killer bees. So we'll get into it. My question is, what happened to the killer bees? That's freaky, right? Could you imagine just hearing that coming at you?
I don't have to. Wasn't there a movie about killer bees?
Pretty
that
sure.
were attacking people and
Yeah.
then like
Yeah, it's called My Girl, and poor little Thomas J went back for the ring, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen My Girl. Yeah, Thomas J dies.
What can make you say
What can make me feel this way? My girl.
my girl? But yeah, like in the movie, I was like, all right, all I got to do is get in a bathtub and get a straw and then just breathe through the straw.
Well, we will cover some of that here coming up. But I wanted to start off by kind of just, if anyone doesn't know, here, let me tell you a story. This is why people were afraid of killer bees, or you should be afraid of killer bees, even now. But last year, a story popped up where a woman was leaving a house in California. She was like a maid or something. She cleaned houses for a living. She left.
She wasn't like a maid, Danny. She was a maid.
I don't like to just like typecast people, you know.
Well, that's her job. You
Okay,
afraid to mention
she-
what her job is?
She was a maid or a house cleaner.
Housekeeper.
And was leaving a house that she had just cleaned, walking out to her car, when suddenly she was attacked by a swarm of killer bees. And they came in and she was screaming. The woman who lived in the house came outside. They had attacked her. At this point, I believe she was kind of like curled down on the ground, laying there, being attacked by these bees. The woman decided, I'm not quite sure. I mean, I guess at least she did something, but she started spraying the bees with her hose, trying to see if that would get rid of them. But instead, she got attacked as well. And then, long story short, this poor woman got stung like over 200 times and ended up in the hospital when finally the authorities could get there and get her away from the bees. But another guy came along, a specialist. He went and found the hive. The hive happened to be like inside of a gas meter that was behind a bush, like on this woman's house, and found that he's with the hive that was in there. He figured there's about 80,000 killer bees in that hive.
Now, were they killer bees or were they just bees? Like a lot of bees stinging. Like I feel like they don't have to be killer bees. They're just regular bees. If you get stung enough times, yeah, you're going to go to the hospital.
That's a good question, and I will get to that in just a minute, Trav.
Yeah, I think that comes down to genetics.
Yeah. So anyway, but there's another part of this story that kind of, I don't know how it intrigued me, but not so much intrigued me as it just you feel kind of like, why did you not do anything? But there's a woman that
I'm
was
pretty sure I could outrun
there was
bees.
a woman that was walking her dog. It sounded like she was like on the other side of the street or like just down the street or something like that. And was being interviewed by the news and just said, yeah, I was just walking my dog and I like looked up and I saw this woman being attacked by bees. And it was like so scary. I could see them like swarming up and then coming down on her.
Forming a fist in the air and just punching her right in the face.
And she's like, but you know, there's nothing I could do. So I just
saw this bear holding a balloon and he was like climbing up to
try to get the honey.
And he was singing some song about a rain cloud.
And there's some weird animal.
Some little boy in really short shorts was saying, tut tut, looks like rain.
The next thing I know is like a depressed donkey.
How come bears, they can just go and grab a hive of honey?
Because it's a freaking bear, dude.
And they have
Like,
thick hides and a lot of fur. It's hard.
So they really
to
don't get stung like...
Oh, they probably... Bees can try, but they're freaking bears. And they will murder them. They will smoosh them like we should just... We should just smush them or run, lady.
I know. But in the end, what my point is, like, I don't know what this like lady literally just watched this other lady get attacked by killer bees and just didn't do anything. And I just thought, if I was in that position, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I would hope that I would go try to help the woman, but I don't know. It's killer bees. So what do you do? You know?
Grab a bat.
It's the classic psychological thought experiment of like, is it called the train experiment or something like that? Where
You can either kill like
basically,
5 people.
yeah. So like, if you were in a situation where you had control of the train switches, so you could control if it goes onto the left track or the right track, and you see like there are 5 people on the left track that it'll hit, and there's like no time to warn anybody. It'll hit 5 people over here and 1 person over here. Will you make the decision to switch it over to the
One person
person,
instead
or
of
just do nothing and be like that? Like, yeah,
So
you make that moral
already
decision.
on the track towards the 5 people.
I guess so, yeah. So
Yep.
would you switch it and knowingly know that your action made that person die,
or just let it go,
or just let it go and be like, I didn't have anything to do with any of it, so I didn't directly kill
I
anybody.
don't think that this qualifies for that analogy though, because the
Yeah,
woman,
no, because you said I would
woman's-
hope I would do
Oh.
something where anybody who you ask, what would you do? They all immediately say like, oh, I would totally switch it to the 1 person or whatever. But then they're like, in reality, because they couldn't ever really test this, obviously. They're like, would you really though? Like in the situation, would you have the gall to switch it and be directly responsible for that person
well, yeah, because
dying?
that's like they tell them that they have to actually physically pull the lever or whatever. So they're physically doing something that would end in a different result than the result that was going to.
So it's either 5 people die that I didn't do anything, so that's not me, or 1 person dies.
So basically,
and it was you that switched it over to that 1 person
is
died.
likened into your story just because the lady just stands there, and it's like, so she could have tried to do something, but
but
didn't.
with her standing there, she wasn't having to make a decision between
She made a decision not to help.
like a group of 5 people being attacked by bees or 1 person being attacked by
I didn't
bees.
say that it was exactly
I know,
the
I
same.
understand, but because it's just her. Because it's not like if that would, I would be more like the train analogy. If you would say, okay, there's 5 people that the train is heading towards, or you can pull the lever, but it's going to immediately turn into you on the track. But the only place that you can pull the lever is where the train will hit you.
Okay, fine.
Whatever, Danny.
Oh.
Semantics.
I've had a lot of time to think about these.
Fine, but isn't there, like, I know there's an episode of Seinfeld, like the last episode where they like all get arrested for not helping a guy that's getting carjacked. It's like the good citizen law, and I that does, I think, actually exist some places. It doesn't
Good
in
Samaritan
Utah, or
law.
Good Samaritan law. It doesn't exist in Utah, but there are places where like that's a real thing.
Yeah, if you're in a position to help somebody, but you don't.
Like, yeah. So in that position, what like would you get in trouble for not helping the lady with the bees?
Yeah.
I don't know. But back
And
to the
then-
bees.
Yeah, okay.
Glad we got on that
There's
track.
a lot of profound moral questions that these killer bees
Why
bring
does
up.
lady not help this lady with the bees?
When I was preparing this, I was like, okay, this first story should take me about 30, 45 seconds to
You
get through.
always underestimate.
Okay, so, but like, yeah, so, I mean, the reason, like I said, I came up with the whole question of what happened to the killer bees, I just remember being a kid, being aware. I don't know, I guess I was like right at that right age where I was old enough to like understand what was going on to a limited degree, but not old enough to like fully understand maybe the whole story behind what the killer bees were. I just hear like these horror stories about killer bees, see things on the news about them talking about killer bees, like literally see them like showing maps of like the killer bees are spreading. And
I
you
know.
can see it,
I was
like,
gonna
coming
say.
up
I
from the
remember
south.
being like, "They're coming across the ocean. They're going to be here soon."
But this was when I was little. So they like it showed them they are now in the United States. They have come from Mexico, and I was like, man, they just went right through customs, huh?
Yeah, and then like Alan said, like on top of all of this kind of information coming in to a kid who's like 8 or 10 years old, then you see there's the killer bee movies that came out, these B-level movies that were like made for TV, and you would watch them and you just
pun intended.
yeah,
B-level movies.
B-level movies. I literally wrote my reference to all this was the B movies about bees that came out of the 90s. That was my note. But yeah, so I mean, that is kind of what I think intrigued me, and again, it came back to age and everything, that I was like, oh, okay, so like these killer bees. But then as I got older, you kind of forget about them, and then it wasn't until later that I was like, what happened to that killer bee whole thing that was happening? So let's get into just like a brief history. So Trav, you asked the question of how do you know they're killer bees? Like why?
Yeah,
what
what
if they were
makes
just
them
like
killer?
regular bees?
Other than the fact that they like kill somebody, but I feel like you get enough bees stinging you, they could all be killer bees.
So they're called killer bees by. I mean, that's like the name. I'm sure that was come up by, like newspaper writers or
No,
people
that's
in the
their
media
scientific genetic name.
to sell papers or
Genus.
killer.
Bees killers.
Species, whatever.
But what a killer bee is actually known as the Africanized bee. So what an Africanized...
Racist.
I know. I mean, at first I was wondering that too, but then I learned a little bit more to try and figure it out. So going way, way back into history too, so bees have been around on Earth for a long, long time. Like the oldest known bee that they found it's like in Jurassic Park where they had that mosquito that was
in the amber.
Yeah.
They found a bee that was in amber, and they tested it, carbon dated it, and then they found out that this bee had been in there for like over 100 million years.
Ooh.
Wait, so is amber like sap? That's what it is? It's like, do you think you think bees just like, they got confused? They were like, is this honey? And then they get stuck. Like, no,
Dang
foiled.
it. I'm going to be in
So
this
there's
thing
like
for 100 million
there's
years.
got to be a ton of bees in amber.
No pun intended. There's
What?
got to be a ton of bees.
Oh, okay. Can we can't say bee anymore, apparently, for the rest of the episode without being a pun.
I know.
But anyway, so what is an Africanized bee? Well,
So wait, if they had a cheer squad, would the cheerleaders of for the bees be like, "Be aggressive, be aggressive"?
yeah. I'm glad that I'm not the only one that gets the crickets. Anyway,
Horrible cricket.
Hey, I can't do all sounds.
okay. Maybe for today's episode, we should be like, bzzz.
No. See, you would have gotten it too.
All right,
Move on.
So in the late 1950s, there was like a geneticist in Brazil by the name of Warwick Kerr who wanted to see if he could somehow genetically create a bee that would be more efficient at creating honey, because he heard that if there's ways that you can make a bee be more productive. And so he ended up getting bees from European bees, and these African bees. So European bees were known because they could create a lot more honey. They were more efficient at creating honey. African bees were more aggressive. They could breed faster, and they could kind of live in more harsh climates.
I still feel like we're not getting away from the racial things here. Still feel like it's racist, but
I know. I don't know who labeled these. But anyway, he ended up being successful at crossbreeding the European bees and the African bees and created these crossbreed Africanized bees. And they actually did prove to be better and more efficient creators of honey. And then after getting that to that point, he kept them all kind of in these I don't know what you call them, those man-made bee trap hive things that you see when you go to bee farms or whatever.
yeah.
But anyway, one of his assistants came out one day, and I don't know if he was cleaning it. No, none of the sources that I saw specifically mentioned why he did this, but it sounds like it was an innocent mistake. He somehow moved all of the screens in the hive that were meant to keep the queen bees inside the hive. Because the worker bees, they could fit through the screen. They were small enough, but the queen bees were too big. So they could go out and do their thing and get pollen or whatever. But then when he moved these screens, the queen bees were able to leave. And once the queen bee leaves, all the bees leave with the queen. So that's how the killer bees or the Africanized bees ended up free or in the wild. And then they started just traveling and spreading into all over the place. And now they were actually taking over territory of the natural bees that were in the area. So that's the history of how the killer bee came to be. So fast forward to another killer bee story. There was a guy in Arizona, a landscaping crew, I think this was about 4 or 5 years ago, working on this older house, and then suddenly they were attacked by a swarm of killer bees. And there's 100,000 killer bees in this nest that was embedded inside the attic of this house that they were working on. They came out, they attacked them. Most of them were okay, they got stung, but they were fine. But one dude, unfortunately, was allergic to bees and bee stings, and he had a cardiac arrest and died. So
EpiPens.
yeah, there's another case of a guy who was on the news for being, was killed by killer bees. So going back to
The only reason they're killer bees is because they actually killed somebody. But it's we've labeled them that one right there. That's a killer bee.
So anyway, back to these bees that escaped this bee farm in the 1950s. They started migrating north at a clip of about 200 miles per year, is what it said, is how fast they were kind of migrating and expanding their territory. They ended up at this point they go as far as they're in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Nevada. They're as far as in southern Utah. They go as far east as Tennessee. So they've kind of covered a lot of the western Midwest portion of the United States at this point. It's estimated that in Arizona alone, that there's over 5 million killer bee hives, each containing 80,000 or more killer bees. So
Dang, son.
there's a lot of killer bees out there that you need to be worried about, especially if you're in Arizona. So, because they like that warm climate. And that goes back to them being African, I guess. Africanized. That's it's not
So
anything
racist.
other than that's literally they come from the African bee. But anyway, what you were wondering is were they called killer bees because this one guy got killed? Well, actually, there's been over 1,000 people's deaths linked directly to killer bees since they've escaped.
So what you're saying is we should still be cautious.
Yes, they're still dangerous enough that you could get yourself into some trouble, especially if you go around poking into the killer bee areas. So I can tell you some things, okay? One, it typically, if you're not allergic to killer bees, it typically takes about 1,000 bee stings or more to kill an adult.
So if you see a big swarm of bees, run away.
That's good advice, Trav.
I
I think
I know
problem
that
is that some people don't see it or notice it, or they don't leave fast enough.
How do you not notice it? I guarantee I've been stung by one bee. I friggin' noticed it. It hurt.
Well, I'm saying if the swarm is already on you.
Run! It's not gonna they don't just attach to you.
Have you guys ever been bit by a horsefly?
Yes.
It's the worst. It's worse than a bee sting, guys.
Well, because they can keep doing it. Bees can just sting you once.
No, well, I only got bit the once, but
Is there also something called a deer fly? And
deer fly.
what's the difference between a deer fly and a horse fly?
I've seen a dragonfly. I've seen a horsefly.
Should we talk about
seen that I never seen when I see an elephant fly.
If you guys haven't noticed already, Trav has some kind of quote or song for everything.
I feel
I
like
don't know how
I think what I'm gonna do is just in these situations, I'm just gonna say the quote, not gonna pay any attention to it. If you know what quote, like if I say something and we just don't acknowledge what it's from, and you want to just point that out, we'll just give you kudos. Go to our website. Go to
Get a hold of us somewhere.
Go to our social media page and just say, "Hey, you referenced this movie." Some of them are going to be easy, like the one I just referenced.
You just referenced Dumbo.
Okay, now you just gave it away.
Oh, well, that's a
Ruined it.
freebie. That's freebie. From
But
now on.
guarantee you, there's going to be some that are going to be mighty difficult to get.
Anyway, back to the killer bees. So, killer bees aren't any more venomous than a regular honeybee is. It's just that they attack in huge numbers. Like there's swarms when they attack you. That's why they're so deadly, is because they attack you with huge numbers instead of where normal honeybees might send, a handful of bees at somebody to get rid of them or to scare them away or sting them or whatever. But killer bees are super aggressive, and they get out there and they put some pheromones on you as soon as like they feel threatened, and then that brands you, and then that tells the whole hive to attack you. And so that's why they're so dangerous, is not because they're any more venomous, just that they attack in huge numbers. And because of that, they're just, like I said earlier, they're way more aggressive. The thing is that they found that they will actually, a lot of scientists say they'll chase you for up to a quarter of a mile.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to run further than a quarter of a mile.
Basically, yes.
So run about
Not-
3 minutes.
So,
Well,
but,
so sprint for a while.
yeah, because like normally bees will stop. Like if you just go a few yards away from their hive, they'll start to leave you alone. But killer bees will not. They will keep chasing you and keep stinging you for a very long period of time. And then I watched a documentary on it, and they were trying to test the whole quarter of a mile theory. So they ended up going out, got these killer bees all riled up. They were all in their suits and stuff. And then they started walking to see how long and far the killer bees would keep attacking them for. And he got a whole mile away from their hive, and they were still attacking. So he's like, I guess we can put that quarter of a mile theory out the window.
What little douchebags. Little bees.
They'd have like a vendetta. I mean,
Yeah. I feel like
The
whole
movie
hive-
would be called B for Vendetta.
Ooh.
That's
Maybe
a
they
Danny
would
and
call
Alan
it-
joke.
maybe it wouldn't be a
Ba-doom.
vendetta. Bees would call it vendettas.
Stop it. See, you ruined it. It was all clever, and then you
I thought
ruined
it was
it.
good. but
Okay.
Anyway.
Are you done? Or do you still have more?
yeah.
Okay.
So like also they're found when they kill and attack people have found bees in the corpses, I guess, nose and mouth and ears, and even down into their esophagus, where they could see that the bees were repeatedly stinging inside their throats, which
well,
basically would cause their throats to
Screw you, man. I'm just going to sting the inside of your esophagus.
which would like cause their esophagus to swell up, and then that could ultimately be part of why they die,
'Cause they couldn't breathe.
It cuts off their airway. But yeah, so I mean that's why killer bees are so potentially vicious or scary. There's one way it's hard to tell. The other thing is it's hard to tell killer bees because, like you said, like how do you know it's a killer bee and not a regular bee? Well, yeah, like we can say it's because there's an Africanized and there's the European traditional honeybee, but you can't tell just by looking at the bees. They look basically the same. So they can get their wings, and apparently the wings on a killer bee is on average about 8.8 millimeters long. The wings on a regular honeybee is about 9.1 millimeters long.
Okay, so as long as you can get one to stop long enough for you to measure their wings, you can figure it out.
Yeah, which... But like that is like a very small difference too. 0.3 millimeters is like not anything that you would be able to like visualize very accurately with your eyes, Like,
Yes.
so you would have to have high tech equipment to do that. And then finally, like to really tell them apart, they have to like dissect a bunch of bees from a hive that they can capture, and then they run their body sizes and everything through a computer, and that'll finally tell them like, with a 95% probability, this is a killer beehive or whatever. So that's how they do that. So back to another vicious attack. There was a man in Las Vegas in 2009 who was just working in some field or something. He says he could hear something, and then he didn't realize what it was. He looked behind him, and he thought he saw like a dust cloud coming
Heard
at him.
something, and then I saw something.
Well, he was working, turned around, thought there was like a cloud of dust coming at him, but it turned out to be a swarm of
Cartoon
bees.
swarm of bees.
And they descended upon him, attacked him. He tried run. He started running away. He tried taking off his shirt so that he could try. No, like listen to why. There's a reason. I know that doesn't sound like you're like, why would you take off your shirt? But like
Easier access.
But like bees were going in his mouth and his nose when he was trying to run. And so he was like, okay, I'm going to take off my shirt to try and use it to like cover my mouth and nose. But when he took his shirt off, it was full of bees. So he couldn't use that to cover his mouth anymore. So he
Couldn't
kept
like cover his hand.
so he kept running until he collapsed. And then he used it. He just like laid there. He's like, okay, this is pretty much it for me. And then he literally put his hands over his nose and his mouth and just laid in the fetal position, like face down on the ground as the bees just kept attacking him. And then he passed out. And then apparently someone must have come along, got him to the hospital because he just woke up in the hospital covered in bee stings. He had 6 doctors working on him, taking out stingers out of his body. Long story short, he ended up being stung over 4,000 times.
Ugh.
And actually, it was like the doctors were like, "You're lucky that you're alive. Like with that amount of venom in your body, you should have been dead."
Do you think when they were putting the IV in, they're like, okay, just a little sting.
Oh, sorry.
He won't know.
Oops, I missed.
soon?
Let me try again.
Too soon for that
Just a
one.
little sting.
Maybe he at least requested like the butterfly
Yeah, can I get a butterfly syringe,
syringe instead.
needle?
Anyway,
We're fresh out. We only have Africanized bee needles.
so Trav, to answer your other question, yes. So, what is the best thing you can do to get away from killer bees?
Run.
Yep. Run, because
I
killer
would
bees-
say light a torch and wave it at them.
Oh.
Yeah, because just most people carry around torches.
Hey, tiki torches got big recently, didn't they? Everyone has them in their backyard.
Well, I don't think the flame.
But nobody
on a
carries
tiki-
them still.
and a flame on a tiki torch isn't like
Yeah, so just run.
It's huge. Or
Just
anything.
run.
Just waving around this like. But anyway, yeah. But bees can fly up to about 15 miles per hour, but the average adult can run faster than that. So
Wait, how many
Thank
miles
you.
per hour?
15. So you can run short distances faster than that for the most part. So yeah, if you are an able-bodied adult, you should just run. The other thing is people think, well, I'm just going to jump into a body of water because then they can't get me. Well, turns out killer bees, because they're so vindictive. Is that what you
Sure,
say? Vendetta? Yeah, vendetta, vindictive. They'll actually like sit there and hover over the water and wait for you to surface and then attack you. So going into water doesn't necessarily help. I guess unless you were like an Olympic swimmer and you could just make your way all the way like across a huge body of water.
You just stash
pop out.
stash scuba gear at every body of water in your neighborhood.
I guess so. But the other thing is too, like, okay, well, we move into a colder climate, so we're going to be safer from bees. And for now, yes, like if you live in Montana or Canada or something, there aren't going to be killer bees there. But there were some people who started doing some experiments. Some researchers did experiments. They put killer bees inside of basically a refrigerator, giant room refrigerator, to see what they would do, if it would kill them or what. But found that they are actually figuring out ways to adapt to the cold, keep themselves warm, and having genetic changes in evolution too that are allowing them to be able to survive in colder climates. So they should be able to continue their march northward, which means us being in Salt Lake City in northern Utah, it could be fairly shortly before killer bees reach us here.
No.
Wait, where are they right now? How far north?
They're as far north as like southern Utah. So as they keep adapting to being able to handle the colder weather, they could come up here. So then finally, I thought this was just ironic, so I wanted to put it in here. But in 1998, there was a town in Arizona that was attacked by a giant swarm of killer bees. Do you know what the name of the town was, Trav?
Had to be something with a B.
The name of the town is literally Bisbee. So Bisbee was attacked by a giant swarm of killer bees. The bees went through the town. It was described that they would move in unison like a black cloud and go from victim to victim as they made their way through the city or the town. 7 people ended up being hospitalized. It took over 8 hours for the authorities to fight off the bees and to get everyone to safety. So that's how ferocious they were, I guess, and how much they really hated this town of Bisbee because they wanted to live in Bisbee, I guess.
We are busy bees. This is our town now. Buzz off.
But yeah, so that's basically what I have on killer bees. What do you guys think?
That was all you had?
Did you guys not like the stories on killer bees?
Did. But we do have one other question that we got to get through today.
Fine. But in conclusion, all I can say is the best thing you can do is be aware of your situation, be on the lookout for killer bees, don't disturb their hives, protect your children, and just stay fit enough to be able to run more than 15 miles per hour.
So basically, anything you would do about regular bees.
Yep. But just do it more so.
No, because you can stay away from regular bees. You can stay away from killer bees. Just all bees in general. Do not go near. Don't bug them. Don't hose them down.
Don't get into their business.
Next question.
Okay.
I like how Travis just made himself nice and comfy.
My
over
back
there.
was hurting, so I needed to recline, but I couldn't reach the microphone, so that made the microphone come to me.
All right. Let's get into our final question, and that is
Okay.
Alan's. What is the event
Yes.
horizon, or what is an event horizon, and what is the event horizon telescope?
Okay. First, I have a quest for you two.
A quest.
All right? A mission. What I need you to do is we are here in Utah. Let's just say Salt Lake City. I need you, Danny, fly to New York with a dime, take it out of your pocket and hold it up. Travis, I need you to somehow grab a camera back here in Salt Lake and take a picture of it, of the dime, to where you can read the date. All right? Does that sound easy enough?
Just get another dime. I'll tell you what you
And to make it even harder, that dime is going to be something that's invisible and does not put out light of its own. Okay?
So
So
he's just holding up like nothing. He's like, yeah, I got a dime.
I don't.
It's invisible.
Hey,
It's an invisible dime.
tell me, is this something that you think you could do right now?
No.
Is this something that would take a feat
I
of
think-
engineering?
I think this would be about the same amount of difficulty as going and standing on top of a building in New York and then trying to take a picture of the individual dimples on a golf ball in LA.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
That is very specific.
Wow. great for you. And drawing equivalencies there. Okay, so if that sounds pretty difficult and dare you say impossible, well, a group of scientists and astronomers and physicists did basically that, but in an even cooler way.
So when they were coming up with this idea, just a bunch of scientists sitting around a table, they're like, dude, you know what would be cool if we could take a picture of someone holding a dime being in New York, but from LA. Okay, start writing it down. Let's make this happen.
What can we
Dude,
do?
that would be cool, actually. What if that was just in the future, your everyday camera could do, your iPhone camera? I could do that. Yeah.
Really feel like that
Like,
would
we
be
would get-
encroaching on like
We would get insane
Some-
resolution.
some privacy laws.
Like some dude's like doing something he shouldn't be doing. He's like, "Shh, no one's around." And then you're like, "Oh, I took a picture of you."
Bull crap, man. I'm like 6 states over. I can see you clearly.
So how?
Oh, I guess since it's the last time, or was it last time or the first one we touched on flat earthers?
yeah, the first episode.
You really couldn't do it because we live on a spherical Earth, and the Earth would be in the way. But take that away. Say it was a flat Earth. That's the job you have to do.
Or could you get high enough in New York, and not high by like marijuana standards,
Okay.
but like high enough on like a ladder or a building that you could look
Ladder.
down.
I don't know.
How
By then,
big
the
is this
curvature
ladder?
By then, the
Super
curvature of
big.
the Earth is pretty substantial, over 3,000 miles. So I would say that would have to be a freaking tall ladder or building.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But like, I want at some point you could be tall enough.
But anyways, for this scenario, we live on a flat Earth. I think flat earthers will appreciate that. But
Thanks.
so what astronomers and physicists did this, well, we're recording this beforehand, I guess. So what they recently did was they photographed the event horizon of a black hole.
Was the black hole at the center of our galaxy?
No, it was the black hole at the center of a huge elliptical galaxy named called M87, Messier 87.
Which is messier than 86.
Other galaxies.
But so this black hole, is 55 million light years away. So it would take 55 million years to get there, going at the speed of light. So basically, we're seeing how it was in the picture
55
that took
million years.
55
You know
million years
what?
ago.
Like, are you sure that just like scientists are making up crap? Just be like, okay, yeah, let's just tell them it's like 55 light years.
Well,
Nobody, who's gonna question us?
Perhaps you don't know me, but I do question.
Okay,
it,
yeah,
and
but
I've done the math myself.
do you have the technology to prove them otherwise?
that it isn't 55 million light
Yeah.
years? Well, I know how the math works, the physics. So
Oh, okay.
I know how you can calculate how far away a
Just saying.
galaxy is.
I'm just saying, I'd probably just be like, okay, whatever you say, man.
Now, if you're saying that this whole picture that they took is bogus, then yeah, maybe that's true. But I mean, what are you, a flat earther?
No, but we
Okay.
definitely didn't land on the moon.
I'm taking their word for it. I'm
That
taking their
was
word
all
for it.
That was
so
all
anyways,
staged in Hollywood.
55 million light years away in M87, and its event horizon it's 6.5 billion solar masses. That's the mass of this thing. So our sun times 6.5 billion. That's how much mass is in this.
So how big is the black hole at the center of our galaxy?
So compared to our black hole, it's I think ours is around 4 million solar masses.
So substantially
this is- yeah.
smaller.
So, and these are what we call supermassive black holes, which we think reside at the center of most galaxies.
Yeah. So until recently, people didn't necessarily know this, but scientists have figured out that at the center of every galaxy, they now assume or think that there's a supermassive black hole, and that's what keeps the galaxy kind of like together, and that's why they spiral like that.
Cool.
I don't know. Well, no. I don't think that's correct. Like, that's the sole reason the galaxies are held together is that. It's their cumulative mass that's way more than that.
Because they're all
still.
connected by hangers. And they
It's-
just circle
Well, no.
like in
so
a diorama.
So this is a little tangent to go on. So if you look at elliptical galaxies like, say, Andromeda, or our galaxy is an elliptical galaxy, and you measure the speed at which the stars toward the inside of it, in the inner part of the disk, are going around the center, and the speed of the stars on the outside of the disk are going around the center. If you do the math based on how much mass you see in that galaxy,
It should be flinging off stars.
then these stars on the edges are going so fast they should just be flying away, just flying off, which
I think, and I know where you're going with this because you're saying that it's dark matter.
yeah, so there's got to be some dark matter that is accounting for this extra gravity that's holding these stars in orbit. Is what were you going to say?
No, I agree, but I think because dark matter is such a large topic on its own, I'm wondering if we should like refocus a little bit.
Well, yeah,
on
I will.
Your question.
Well, I will, but so what I'm saying is because if you didn't have this dark matter, like the black hole wouldn't be enough to hold it still. So it's not the black hole, even though it's a supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxies, it's not holding everything into the galaxy that's orbiting it. It's there because that's like the center of everything, where things that fall would fall toward a center and they accumulate together as the black hole. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of like a toilet bowl.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly like a toilet bowl.
So what was I saying? Do you have any questions so far?
Questions, concerns?
Because when I put mass into a toilet bowl, it does tend to fall towards the center, towards that black hole. I don't know where it goes after that.
That means you're not eating enough fiber.
See, that's the thing. People are telling us that like it goes somewhere that's like we're just taking their word for it.
It's probably
Who are we to question the
probably like a little black hole.
plumbers?
That's just taking it and crushing it into oblivion. But, sorry, Al. Go ahead.
So this black hole that they photographed the event horizon of, the event horizon is, since it's so massive, it's actually pretty big, but on astronomical terms, it's not really. But it is 23.5 billion miles across in diameter, which our solar system is about 3 out to Pluto. That's what I'm saying is our solar system right now. I mean, there's different things you could say our solar system is, but out to Pluto is about 3.5 billion.
And this is
miles.
23 billion.
Yeah, so it's about 6.57 times the diameter of our solar system. But again, you're putting 6.5 billion suns worth of mass in that. So it is a very compact, dense, localized object.
Well, it's a black hole.
Yes, the densest.
I think
thing
it's implied.
Yeah, I just thought like the reason I wanted to talk about this is because like I never even imagined like that was going to happen in my lifetime, let alone like it seems like it just suddenly came up. They've been working on it for a couple decades, but like I haven't heard anything about it until recently in like the last couple of years.
One
Earliest.
question
What?
as we end this, and we'll try and not answer this to where like hopefully this doesn't spark like another half hour or anything, but what is the purpose of it?
Of what? The black hole or taking the picture of it?
Why? I guess we're just doing it because we can.
Well, that. Well, actually, no, because we couldn't until we decided we wanted to, and then so it wasn't.
Okay, but why? But why did we decide to?
So one of the main reasons is because black holes were first theorized to exist to actually be real things in our universe in I think it was like 1916-ish when Albert Einstein came out with his general theory of relativity that basically describes how gravity works. And then shortly after that, Charles something Schwarzschild. He was the first one to actually like come up with what we call the event horizon and calculate that and say there's probably like theoretically there's an object where it's so massive and so dense that nothing, not even light, can escape it. That the escape velocity is more than light. So since then, it's been, they say, a theory. Even though there's a lot of indirect evidence that we've collected, we have never actually seen one. But we've never been able to say that's a freaking black hole.
And that's
right there.
great. That doesn't answer my question though. Like, how does this help us?
It doesn't, other than it's answering a question that
'Cause I feel
that
like
humans have had.
I feel like human, but
No, it totally helps. It helps us because we live in a universe that is completely based on laws of physics. So to be able to actually see that this thing that laws of physics says should really exist, and now we know it does, that means our laws of physics are at least correct.
Yeah.
So,
But I think
so we can, I mean, that opens up the entire universe. Like if we understand how the universe works, we can do pretty much anything.
Yeah. No, and I get that. I wonder, and Trav, correct me if I'm wrong, you're kind of asking it from more of a standpoint of like, how has my life changed tomorrow or humanity's life changed tomorrow if we take a picture of this, of a black
I guess
hole?
I look at a lot of things. Like I read this this report that said $100,000 of taxpayer money was spent on a report or a what's the word I'm looking for? A study on how many Americans roll their toilet paper from top down or from bottom up.
Was that taxpayer money?
$100,000 for some stupid group of students to figure that out. I feel like, and again, I'm not likening that unto, but my point is that a lot of money goes into these studies and statistics and things like that. So yeah, how does that like benefit humanity in the fact that like, okay, we took a picture of this black hole. Now I guess we know that it exists, but now what can we do with that?
Well, case. I mean, I can't say that it will affect you like personally.
I would like it to,
even in your lifetime. But say people used to all think the world was flat. How did the discovery of no, it's not, like we're actually a sphere, how did that change humanity? How did us being able to go out into space change? We have GPS. The only reason is because we discovered, oh, the Earth is a circle or a sphere. We can put satellites into
Orbit.
geostationary orbit.
So I guess
in
the
outer
answer,
space.
the answer is just TBD.
Yeah, to be basically that is it. Like that's
It's
most
probably not a
things with-
direct answer.
Yeah.
But
I
yes,
just want
it'll
to
help.
I just want to make sure that we're going towards something and not just like, hey, that's awesome. Most Americans prefer their toilet paper down instead of up.
I think
do.
I
I
think
can attest to that.
I think the way to look at scientific discovery, at least to me, is that you do the discovering, you figure something out, we did not know, and then people's creativity, people in all under other industries, that information propagates out, and then they use that to come up with new ideas, new things, invent new things, engineer things that we never thought about before. You know, does that make sense?
Yes. Well, good.
And to wrap this up, Alan, I'm only gonna come through this, and so tell me if I'm missing something quickly. But in 60 seconds, I'm gonna try and explain the overall what this whole thing was. So, because I don't think we touched on that, and so if anyone actually is interested in the Event Horizon Telescope and or the Event Horizon, a picture of a black hole that they're trying to take, the reason that they are hypothetically or they think that they can do this is because around a black hole, there is this point at which it's like nothing can, like if you cross the event horizon, then nothing can escape it, right? So like once you cross that line, that's it. Too bad, you're going to be sucked in. But before that, you could have a chance of getting out. So actually light itself splits off. So like photons, part of it will go into the black hole, part of it will go out. Like
Fire photons.
Yeah, like right on the very, very edge of it, which is called Hawking radiation. That's something that Stephen Hawking came up with. So that is what is actually emanating trace amounts of energy or light, right? So that's what they're trying to capture a picture of, because if they can capture that, that's going to be like the edge of the black hole, and that's how they can say, oh, look, that's a black hole because we caught this Hawking radiation or around it, the event horizon. But the way that they did it, which is kind of cool, is they can't just take one camera and zoom in and take a picture of it. There's just no camera that's big enough, has a big enough lens to do that. So what they're doing is they're taking
or
different
camera telescope.
Yeah, different telescopes
Telescope, yeah.
all around the world, and using those as one big unit and basically creating hypothetical
A
virtual lens that's like the size of the Earth. So
Yeah.
it's like basically they've created a telescope that would be equivalent to the power of a telescope that was like had a lens the size of the Earth.
An
And that's
aperture,
how they're taking a picture of.
Only this isn't in the optical. It's in radio. It's a radio telescope. I think the light they captured was 1.3 millimeters in wavelength, which compared to visible light is huge. Visible light's like on the nano scale, which is I think billionths of a meter.
So and Alan, is it Monday or this week, right? That they're supposed to release the first pictures?
So no, I mean we're releasing this
later,
but so it's May or April 10th, which was a couple. What was
I
it?
apologize. Yeah, we're recording this earlier.
Yeah. April 10th, which what's today? So it was 3 days ago that they actually came out with in the press conferences and revealed this first ever picture of the black hole event horizon.
Oh, so they've already released it?
Yeah, like I'm looking at it right here. Like, let me turn
Is
this
it the
around.
one that I sent?
No. There, you guys can see it, right?
So it is basically,
So,
it is the one. It's
the
just
black-
somebody added the freaking hand.
Yeah, I don't know what that one you sent was.
It was
Is that
hilarious.
It was a joke.
It was a joke.
Oh, it was a joke?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think, Alan, if you would, will you go ahead and at some point post this on our Instagram account or social media account so that if anyone is interested, you can go there and you can see a picture of it, and maybe he can even put a link to a website or something that'll talk about it. But
Yeah.
that way, if you are somebody who's interested in this kind of thing, you can.
I'll just
go
put
there
a
and get
link.
it.
I'll put a link directly to eventhorizontelescope.org, which is they have like all the information on there.
Okay.
And yes, but so real quick, just a quick correction. So this isn't actually the Hawking radiation that we're seeing. This is what we're seeing is so there is matter, gas cloud that's falling into the black hole. And so as it falls into the black hole, it creates an accretion disk around it. And the closer to the event horizon you get, the faster all that gas is going. We're talking relativistic speeds. We're talking close to the speed of light. That matter is moving. So right next to the event horizon, those particles are that plasma is smashing into each other at the speed of close to the speed of light.
So it's like supercharged.
I think I heard like the temperature is like 6 billion degrees Kelvin, which is freaking hot.
I knew a kid named Kelvin.
So
Was he 6 billion degrees?
So just like fire, like hot things put out electromagnetic radiation. It's called black body radiation. But so it's so hot, it's putting out all of this light. That's what we're seeing. And then we're seeing this photon ring of light that is actually in orbit. This light is orbiting the black hole for a while before some photons escape and shoot towards us, which then they capture in this Earth-sized virtual radio telescope. And then I just want to tell you how much data they collected over the course of this. It's 5 petabytes of data, which 1 petabyte is 1 million gigabytes. And they said that the weight of all their hard drives storing this data was about half a ton. That's how much data they collected to be able to get this picture.
1,000 pounds.
About, yeah, I guess.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. I don't think we have any special announcements per se right now. We can just go into next week. You can look forward to questions such as if you were to explore infinite, or if you could explore infinite possibilities at every decision point in life, would you? So think about that. It seems like a really cool power, but as Trav was hypothesizing earlier, I don't know. Maybe you would or wouldn't do it, huh, Trav?
That was exactly my hypothesis, Danny.
I don't want to give it away until next week. Trav, kind of, he has a story he will tell us next week, which kind of led into his questions. But we all know fear can manifest itself in strange and unusual ways at times. So what are you afraid of is going to be his question. I think we're going to go into not just your traditional scares like spiders and the dark and that kind of ghosts, right? We're gonna explore fear on a different level. And then finally, Alan wants to explore a little bit of like when exactly are we going to get the first person to step foot on Mars? And once we do that, how long until we're actually going to start colonizing Mars? Is that correct, Alan? Is that your question? Okay.
Yeah. You guys see a theme going with my questions?
So look forward to those questions. We'll be back, well, on episode 4. I was going to say next week, but I think we're releasing a lot of these at the same time.
So yeah.
So you could listen to this like literally right after I'm done talking right now. Trav, why don't you take us out?
So yes, thank you for listening to Q Code Podcast, where your curiosity quest begins.
Literally, your curiosity quest starts here.
Yeah, but the way I was saying it, I couldn't say it that way. Make sure to, you can find us on, or our podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube. Go ahead and visit our website at qcodepodcast.com. Email us at qcodep, that's the letter P, at gmail.com. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at qcodepodcast. And also don't forget to leave us 5 stars. If you want to leave us 4 stars, we will accept that. But
5's better.
anything less than that, just forget it.
But you give people high 5s, but you never say, yo, give me a high 4.
So thanks again for listening, guys, and we will see you next time.